and a happy Saturday to you. This is September 19th, 2020. Thank you for being here. I'm Willie, if this is your first time here. Make sure you hit the like button, and I want to thank all of you for being here. And if you can let me know if you can hear me, and if you can also let me know how the lighting looks. I'm adjusting the lighting in here, so if you could let me know, that would be fantastic. And I see some folks in the house. Good morning, Clarence. I gotta mute this, otherwise you guys are gonna get a feedback here. Okay. Good morning, Clarence. Silent Wolf. Unky Joe made it. That's fantastic. Brian Coates, good morning. Ivan is here. And forgive me if I butcher your name. I think it's Birger. All right, so I got just a couple things I want to talk about this morning. One of them that I'm pretty excited about is we finally have the Protectli packages put together. Everything's been approved. I sent my configuration over, so I'm going to do a video later this weekend and put it out that explains what comes in the package, show you that, and then provide those links. There are actually links, and now I don't know that I make any commission at all. That hasn't really been talked about. What was really talked about, what the meat and potatoes of the whole thing with Protectli is that I wanted a configuration that was standard, that could be shipped to clients so that we know 100% what we're dealing with when they get the device. There is a default username and password, and it actually prompts you to change the password when you first log in. So we've got all of that kind of consideration built into the configuration, and you also get some special pricing. But I honestly don't know if I make any commission. I will definitely find out. I don't think so. I think it was just a deal that we put together so that you can have good pricing on that product, and I know when you receive it and we're doing consulting together what the base configuration of the device is. There's no guessing or anything like that. So, and when I do the video, I'll talk about the base configuration. So I am really excited about that. The other thing that I am excited about is I have a Grandstream GSC3570, which is their new, let me actually pull that up. For those of you that don't follow me on other social media, let me pull this device up so that you can see it here. So what this is it's like an intercom facility control station, like all in one. And so it's like a 7-inch panel, and it's got SIP built into it and all that good stuff. So I actually have mine on the network. Now, Grandstream did not send this to me. I bought this out of my own pocket. So here it is right here. And I'm going to put in the username and password. Now, the username and password on the Grandstream devices is random for every device, so that they can meet some of those laws that actually say that we have to do that, which is not a bad thing. I'm not saying that it's a bad thing, but what I am saying is if you lose your your sticker, then you're going to have a difficult time unless you wrote the password down somewhere else. So I'm going to select a password for this device. Save that. It says password changed successfully. So I'm going to do a full video on this. I'm going to hook a camera into it and take a look at all of the different types of abilities that this device has. But if you look at it, the physical device itself, let's see if they've got a shot of it here. On the back, and I'm not seeing a good picture of it here, so when I do the video, I'll definitely make sure that I talk about it. It has actual interfaces for like alarm systems and building access control and all that good stuff. So you'll be able to open doors, alarm, disarm your alarm right from this device. So I'm really excited about this. I actually have a customer who has he wants to use 90 of these in an apartment building. So that's why I bought one, so that we can take a look at it and make sure that it's going to do everything that we want to do. I guess maybe too, the other thing that we should talk about, well, let's go through this real quick. So you can see I don't have this registered to any PBXs, which, by the way, you can register Grandstream endpoints to any PBX. It doesn't have to be the Grandstream UCM, so just keep that in mind. Network, we can see that we've got DHCP. This is hardwired because I am drawing PoE from the switch to power this. Some system info here. So it goes out and it does GeoIP to understand where the weather needs to be displayed for you. So you can see here it says Peoria. It does support OpenVPN, so you're going to see that. Now later in the year, you're going to see the Grandstream UCM6300 series announced or released. I'm not 100% sure. This year's got everything off kilter. However, they have a new feature called remote work, and you have to connect to a cloud instance, and I'm pushing for them to let us host this ourselves so that we don't necessarily have to depend on Grandstream to host this. But they've got a new feature where you can do basically NAT traversal, of a firewall to register endpoints without a VPN and things like that. So when that comes out, we'll take a look at that. But for now, we are using the OpenVPN, and it works really, really well. I don't know if James is on the live stream or not, but James can testify to how many people we've set that up for. So if you look at this firmware, a lot of this stuff is going to be exactly like a regular Grandstream endpoint, where you can, put an account name on, SIP server. I mean, and the firmware all looks very much the same. We should be able to, at least in theory, do a zero config push on this. Now, I haven't tried that yet. Here it's got some dial plan settings, network settings, SIP settings, and then down here are our codec settings. I know this all looks very intimidating, but once you understand the vernacular and what your goals are, it's pretty easy to work through this. Our call settings, here's your intercom settings. Let's see. And this is literally the first time I've been in this device interface. So I took it out of the box, took some pictures, plugged it in to make sure that the weather worked. And this is literally, you are walking through this with me the first time. And I just keep looking over to check the comments. General settings. Here's our external service. So here's the Grandstream door system. You can actually probably use this with any type of door station, whether it's Grandstream, Axis, Fanville, you name it. We can probably make this work together. Here we have alarm. So call mode is serial hunting, parallel, account dynamic. Interesting here. We'll have to figure this out. It does have an SOS function, which is like an emergency, big emergency button. IPC. So, I mean, you can see this has got a lot of bypass dial plan through call history and directories, disable call waiting tone. There's a lot of things in here, date and time. So it's automatically going out to an NTP server. Display language is auto. LCD display. Here's our backlight timeout, screensaver timeout. Here's our ringtones. So here's our basic settings. Advanced, so it'll do 802.1x auth on the wire, likely on the Wi-Fi as well. OpenVPN, here is the OpenVPN, and we're going to get into that. A lot of people have asked us to do a tutorial on how to do Grandstream remote work, remote phones with the current solution. That's something that we've actually figured out, and it's working really well for us. SNMP, Wi-Fi settings. What else? That was this one, maintenance. We got web access, upgrade, and provisioning. Let's see here, tools. So there were some things, so I'm going to have to figure out like what what correlates to what, right? Because this has got, if you look at this, let's see here. If you look at this, it's got these buttons. So it's obviously got a call, it's got a monitor, right? So you can look at a camera, you've got your alarm interface, you've got your SOS, you've got messages, call history. So if you are using a Grandstream UCM or any other SIP UC or SIP-based PBX that has SMS capability, you can do messages or messaging capability. You can do that from endpoint to endpoint. So I don't know if any of you who have Grandstream systems have ever noticed that you can send messages from one phone to another. It's kind of like an SMS. You can take a look at that. All right, let's see here. No questions so far. Oh, you guys are quiet this morning. Very quiet this morning. So I'm super excited to hop into this. Quick features on this. It's a 7-inch 1024 by 600 capacitive touchscreen. It's got dual band AC Wi-Fi, 4 alarm input ports, 1 alarm output port. It's got full duplex 2-way HD audio with advanced echo cancellation. It has that secure boot and supports PoE. And I really can't wait. I don't know what version of the firmware, if there's a newer version or not. Let me real quick hop over here to firmware.grandstream.com. And let's see, we're going to do a search for the, close that. I'm going to do a search for the GSC3570. So 1.0.3.1 is the firmware. Let's see. And it looks like that is what we're on now. So it doesn't look like there is a newer firmware for this yet. So I'm going to have to check out like the UCM templates and see what the capabilities are inside the UCM. So I'm hoping that everything with this, works out. Hey, Jacob. Yeah, if it had an integrated web browser, it'd be the perfect home automation panel. So the last that I knew about this device, it is Linux based. So that's probably something that they could do. But I mean, if it was something that was Android based, I would see where they might do that, like with the handsets that are Android based. And this could be Android based, but I thought it was Linux based, which was one of the deals. But anyway, once I get it hooked to a UCM, we'll see how it works out. I'm going to mount it on the wall. If you look at the physical device, it is you can stand it up like a picture frame, which I'm wondering if it's going to have any of those kinds of capabilities. And there could be another management interface on this that I don't know about. Let's see. Resources, tools, and documents. Let's see if there's anything here real quick. User manual. Let's see. This, like I said, first time we're ever touching any of this. So it could definitely have a different menu. Let's see. Equipment packaging, wiring, setup, connection example. So it walks you through all the different physical electrical connections for those for doors and things like that. Arming mode, SOS calling, which we saw all that stuff kind of built in. Features, basic. Let's see. Configuration via web browser. So it looks like where we were at is it. Yeah, it doesn't look like I missed any type of interface or anything on this. So after I figure it out, I will do a video on it. I got to make sure that it works for this particular customer, because if we put 90 of these things out there and it doesn't work the way that the customer wants, they are not going to be happy. So somebody said that they were having a little issue with this. I'll have to go back and read it. It was on one of my posts, but I don't think so. Hey, Joe from Cajoling Tech. So funny story. So the ATEM stuff you were helping me with, there's another, guy who, thinks, or, he works actually in video production, but like he thought that I should have consulted him on that. And I think we offended him. I was like, I got a guy that works for AWS that's helping me with some pointers that knows about the ATEM. So I thought you'd find that funny. So yeah, so watch for this video. Like I said, I've just got to get it figured out. I got a Grandstream camera that I want to pair it with. I also have the door station and the intercom. So we'll see how these all work out and play together. I'm not 100% sure yet, but I will be testing it. I will be testing it this week. So I'm glad everybody is able to join us here this morning. The other thing that I want to talk about, and I've been seeing some talk about this morning, and I really wanted your input on this. So please get your keyboards ready to give me some feedback on this, right? So I saw an article from somebody that I follow on Twitter that talks about how 14.5 million Americans don't have access to broadband. 14.5 million. I'm Googling this on the other screen. Americans don't have access to internet. And I couldn't remember if it was broadband or... Yeah, so actually the FCC has a report out there that talks about how 14.5 million people in the United States, and obviously there are other countries that have a similar issue, but they're talking about, how there's 14.5 million people that don't have access to broadband and things like that. And I do agree that is an issue. Now, the federal government already has some programs where ISPs can sign up. It's the USDA Rural Broadband Initiative, where companies can sign up and they're awarded dollars to build out these last mile networks. Now, obviously, if you look at some of the companies that are getting it, it's like any other government program. The funds get taken by companies who don't always do what's in the spirit of, of the money. And it's kind of interesting to me we've always had, some conversations about like net neutrality and all this other stuff. But what I'm interested to hear from you, and I don't want this to become political, so if it becomes political and ranty, just know I'm going to delete your comment. We're not talking American politics, so to speak. Now, this is a political issue, but I don't want people in the comments going on and droning on about political parties and things like this. This is a conversation about, it's a theoretical conversation about government in the United States, whether it's at the federal level, whether it's at the state level, whether it's at the local level, to solve this problem. Now, we all know that right now, if you don't have internet access, or especially sometimes faster access, but if you don't have access at all, like you are being cut off from a certain percentage of the emerging world. You may actually be less stressed and be happier if you don't have that, but daily life is going to continue, to get more difficult as you don't have access to these resources. So we need to all recognize that where we're at, the internet is important. It's hugely important. I don't know that there's actually any government ISP that exists in the United States, but what I want to know from you is, do you believe that municipalities in the United States should be building fiber to the business, fiber to the home networks with tax dollars, and then allowing other providers to come in and provide those services? Or should the government be providing, fair access to broadband? I think at the federal level, this is me, we need to refine the rules, and we need to force these ISPs to have specific plans of how they're going to actually reach those last mile folks, and then there has to be some sort of outcomes from that. And if not, then you have to pay that money back, right? But if you provide those actual services to the amount of people, like I think you should have to justify this down to, I mean, obviously there's going to be some margin of error, but if you're receiving millions of dollars from the federal government and it's to put in new infrastructure to reach people with broadband that don't have access to it, you better make sure that you're actually providing that service. So we need metrics to ensure that these dollars are being spent appropriately. What that looks like, I don't know. But if we're going to provide that at the federal level, then should municipalities be able to take tax dollars, build these fiber networks, and then have private businesses come in? Because then there's also a recurring charge yearly for the maintenance of that. Now, it may be very low depending on how the fiber network is built out, or maybe it's a wireless network. So depending on how that's built, the yearly maintenance may be close to nil, right? But still, there's going to be ongoing maintenance. Bubba and his backhoe cuts of fiber. That's not cheap. You've got, all kinds of issues that come along with being a network owner or network operator. So what do you think in the comments? Should we have two different programs? Should local municipalities be able to build these types of things on the taxpayer dollar? And then, what does that look like? And then have private companies come in? Should private companies be doing this? Now, I'm not a fool. I understand the federal government has been subsidizing all kinds of programs for a long time when it comes to telecommunications and things like that. But this is a little bit different where, if a municipality builds out the fiber network, and if you go to Chattanooga, Tennessee, you can actually get 10 gig internet to your house for $299 a month. You can get a gigabit for $67.99. You can get 300 meg for $57.99. And this is, I believe, run on a municipal, municipal network. Now, if I'm not right about that, please let me know in the comments. But should we be treating the internet like we do roads, where tax dollars are used to build those tools? A road is really a tool, right? It gets us from point A to point B, and it's really not a luxury. A road's not a luxury. Now, maybe nice roads are a luxury. I mean, if you've ever been to Illinois, the roads here are shit. And so nice roads. When you leave Illinois, because in Illinois the roads like, and then you get out of Illinois and the roads are smooth. So you definitely know. I wouldn't want the internet to be the same way. But what do you think? I definitely have some thoughts, as you've seen, but where does the government private partnership, where does that go? At what point, when the unless we say that, fiber networks, copper networks, these are all critical infrastructure to local municipalities, to at the state level, the federal level, where is the government now competing with private business where it shouldn't be competing with private business? There's all these questions. And for me, it's a very difficult issue, because I agree 100% that people need access to the internet. People have to have access to the internet in 2020. So let's go over to the comments and see what folks are thinking here. So Jacob says he's got 48.5 on garbage DSL. Provider ran 1 gig fiber to the whole town except me. Kind of makes me feel like they shouldn't get the credit if they don't cover the whole town. Well, and with some of these fiber providers, you'll see that they have to go in and they have to get a certain amount of signups in an area. So they'll divide a town. Let me fiberfastnow.com. So if you visit Mid-Century, they're a co-op that's in the area. And if you go to their fiber communities, you can see where fiber is available from this company. Now, what they do though is they will go into, an area, they have interest, they have people signing up, construction, scheduling install, and they get, money up front to, show that people are actually interested in doing this. Now you can see that construction is a go here. And And so these orange areas, they've divided these into what they call like fiber hoods, right? Because it's very expensive to come in and roll these networks out to, entire cities. Now they get enough interest where they can do, areas, sections, right? So here, this is Canton, Illinois. So you can see that these fiber hoods are complete, that are highlighted here in blue. You can see that they are scheduling installs in the purple, and then the orange is still in the sign up area, and then the gray is interest. Tell us where to build next. So in these gray areas, and I really like this company. I've had their service before, and I really like it. It was 1 gig symmetrical for $74.50 or $74.95 a month. All you could eat, no bandwidth caps. So it's very interesting to me the way that they do it, because I had originally talked to them several years ago about bringing in a wireless backhaul using air fiber into the town we used to live in, and then becoming a wireless ISP to compete with Mediacom, who is the local cable company, and their service is not good. And there's just a whole lot of things, and competition in this area is always good. But now we're looking at private companies, whether they have or haven't taken federal dollars to build this out. That I don't know. I'd have to look at that list. However, I really like the way that Mid-Century does this. And to me, it just makes sense. They get enough interest, then they can spend the money to, they can justify spending the dollars to build this out. I can't even guess what a build out like this would cost. It's got to be in the millions of dollars. Millions and millions of dollars. So they have to figure out how to recoup that. So I really like this model. So, all right, let's see. I'm going back to the comments here. Maybe. All right. Unky Joe says, I am old enough to remember stories about my grandfather fighting to avoid electricity at their farm. That must have been a while ago. And then Unky Joe says, my electric co-op built it without government help. When these large companies get right away, they should be required to light up areas they run their fiber through. Problem solved. And so then is that a problem solved through legislation? Because then it's, the government, so if I understand what you're saying is that when the companies get easements, I think there's actually some sort of a federal, maybe it's at the state level, but I was thinking that there was some sort of something with the FCC where you basically have to be granted access. And I could totally have that wrong. It's been a while since I looked at building out a fiber ISP, or at one time I was actually designing one for neighborhoods that was Ethernet. So you would have basically somebody rent you cabinet space on the outside of their house, and you would trench fiber, and then in these smaller neighborhoods, you would go out direct burial Ethernet. It was like this pie in the sky thing, and then thought about wireless and things like that. But I for some reason, I thought there was something like that. And if I'm wrong about that, put that down in the comments. And a lot of these companies can build this without, if you get to Hurricane Electric, internet is fairly inexpensive, but it's the transport to get there, right? So Hurricane Electric is one of the larger backbone providers, and I don't see that they have any pricing. Okay, right over here, specials. Get BGP IP version 6 and IP version 4 for 0.09 cents per megabit, right? So I'm not sure how much megabits or how many megabits you have to buy to get that pricing, but let's run a calculator on this real quick. Let me see here. All right, so 0.09. So at 9 cents, I keep saying 0.09, but it's 9 cents per megabit, right? So if I wanted to bring in 10 gigabits, so that's per megabit, so I need to basically do 10,000 megabits. It costs $900 a month to bring in 10 gig. I can oversubscribe that 10 gigs so much depending on my packages. So much oversubscription happening on the 10 gig feed that there's, if I've got a solid plan and I've got people signing up, I don't think there's any way that I don't make money, right? So, I mean, if you see how inexpensive, but like I said, the transport to get there, like where I'm at, I'd have to somehow get fiber from where I'm at to a place that can hook into and get to the nearest Hurricane Electric, which I think is Chicago, you know, so there becomes a whole logistics transport issue there. But I think once transport is more of it, I think competition in the ISP arena is only good for the people. I mean, we are seriously laggy here in the United States with broadband for as much as we would like to probably think we're better than a lot of countries in that aspect. We're not. All right, back to the comments here. Michael Kellogg says, internet needs to be a utility with a standard QoS. I have 2 connections and neither is reliable. Yeah. So, and that's the thing, like some of these ISPs, they have you as a captive market. So, and maybe their infrastructure is old and they have you as a captive market. So what is the incentive for them to upgrade, right? They're like, well, you're not going to go anywhere else. And even if you did go somewhere else, you might have the same issue. So let's see. Unky Joe says, can I get Amazon to deliver on time with better internet? No, not in 2020. Not in 2020. In fact, we are actually starting to see delivery times for products that they had pretty much been rectified. Now we're starting to see delays again. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Joe from Cajoling Tech says, in a perfect world, we'd have a national reference architecture and standard. ISPs can bid to bring areas to the reference. ISPs would be held to a standard of latency, uptime, etc., or they lose. So, yeah, like national standards for broadband kind of exist already. Like to be considered broadband, what is the FCC definition of broadband? Let's see. Minimum download speeds. I'm not sure what the actual, let's see. Broadband speed guide. So here is a broadband speed guide from the FCC, but I thought at one point there was like a standard that existed to be actually called broadband that you had to keep. And for some reason, at one point I thought it was like 4 megabits per second, and then they upped it to like 13 or 25 or something like that. But these are pretty loose. I don't consider 1 megabit to be broadband. I mean, we've had T1s for years that can do 1.544 megabits per second. And anybody who's still managing T1s, myself included, you understand how painfully slow that really is with the applications we're trying to push over it. Now, if you've got just some voice traffic, it's not bad. But when you start trying to do other things over it, it's horrible. Right here they say VoIP calls less than a half a megabit. Students need 5 to 25. Telecommuters need 5 to 25. File downloading, why is that even a thing that the FCC is putting out there by itself? Is the FCC advocating something here? Is this a hidden message? I don't know. Social media only needs 1 megabit. If you have ever tried to load Facebook on a crappy 3G connection that's providing like 2 to 3 megabits per second, you'll know that that's almost impossible. And so this is actually, I actually do like this recommendation here for the standard definition of video, because when we do public Wi-Fi, we will typically set the, we'll cap everybody, we'll do speed limits, and we'll usually do either 3 or 4 megabits, because that gives everybody the ability to stream their Pandora or their Spotify, but then also stream some video if they're on the treadmill or whatever, or if they're sitting, and that 3 to 4 is about right, I think, for public Wi-Fi. However, I don't know where they got their streaming Ultra HD 4K from. I've seen a lot of different reports about the actual traffic and how it buffers and streams, but I think you're going to need more than 25 megabits per second to stream HD 4K. This is, I don't know where this number came from. If somebody can give me a better number for that. All right, so video conferencing, they say that a standard personal call, Skype, 1 megabit, maybe voice only. I don't believe a video that unless you're going to be pixelated running at 3 frames per second. HD video call, maybe. And FCC, you know, Skype is really not a thing anymore. So come on, FCC, update your documents. Gaming console connected to the internet, 3 meg, online multiplayer, 4 meg. Maybe, but with like games like Call of Duty having a 60 gig update, come on now. We got to do something about this. This is, I don't even know. I don't think some of these speeds are reasonable. All right, let's hop back over to the comments here real quick. Joe from Cajoling has promised Unky Joe. So Joel's going to fly to Texas and deliver his Amazon packages, and he's even going to bring handwritten notes from Jeff Bezos. Let's see. Jahinder says, we had this in the UK. The fiber network was made by BT and paid for with government money. As it is the government, they said the network has to be open to everyone at a cheap price. So, yeah, but what happens, you know, when a fiber ISP like Mid-Century is actually providing a good service, you know, and they can build out their own networks because they understand how to run a checkbook. Like, so like how, you know what I mean? Like there's a whole thing that we need to talk about, you know, with that. Unky Joe says, I'm waiting on a fracking video card to do a video on. How's the irony? That is highly ironic. Jacob Johnson says that he is pre-signed up with Mid-Century. Yes, I mean, everybody who's in Mid-Century really loves the Mid-Century stuff. And all right, so it looks like there's a problem with the chat. I don't know if the stream is still working, but I can't see anything in chat, which is disappointing. So if you're watching this after the fact, because I think I'm going to have to go ahead and wrap this real quick because I'm having some internet issues, it appears. Leave all of your thoughts down in the comments. I want to thank you for being here with me this morning. And we'll see if we can get some of these issues worked out. I think I'm going to have to hardwire everything instead of trying to push it over Wi-Fi for the streaming video. But let me know your thoughts on the whole issue of should municipalities be providing that fiber network, that copper network, whatever kind of network it is, and then having other providers come in. So let me know what you think about that in the comments. I want to thank you for being here with me on this Saturday morning. And if you need IT consulting, you can go to williehowe.com. Affiliate links are down below. You don't have to use those, but when you do, it kicks a couple bucks over here. So thank you to all the folks who use those. And as always, I'm Willie, and I will see you in the next video.